Hello and welcome back to the KanCare Ombudsman Liaison Training. We're continuing with the line-by-line guide of the application for the elderly and persons with disabilities. In this module, we'll talk about the following questions. Who's considered a Medicaid-eligible non-citizen? What important documentation should be submitted with the KanCare application as proof of immigration status? What is SOBRA? And a little bit about the income and asset requirements of SOBRA. We're now going to be looking at the top section of page 4 and the bottom of page 5 of the KanCare application for the elderly and persons with disabilities. In this section, we'll address citizenship and immigration status and SOBRA questions. Section C continues on to page 4. Applicants are asked to continue answering questions about themselves and persons in their household. It's important to enter the applicant's Social Security number and the Social Security number for anyone living in the household, even if not applying for medical assistance, to help avoid processing delays. Note, the eligibility team needs Social Security numbers for everyone applying for medical assistance. People on the application who are not applying for medical assistance for themselves may choose not to give their Social Security number. But if there is income to allocate, for example, from a spouse who lives in a nursing home to a spouse who lives in the community or for another long-term care program, having the Social Security numbers for both can speed up the application process. The eligibility team uses Social Security numbers to check income and other information to find out who qualifies for medical assistance. If someone does not have a Social Security number, they can call 1-800-772-1213 or visit www.socialsecurity.gov. Remember, if you are applying for Medicaid, you do have to at least have applied for a Social Security number and show proof that you've applied for that. The KDHE eligibility team must have proof that the applicants have applied for Social Security, as all Medicaid recipients must have a Social Security number to receive Medicaid. Page 4, line 5 of the application asks if the applicant is a U.S. citizen and asks for the state and country of birth. On page 5, lines 25 through 26 asks about the immigration status. To be potentially eligible for KanCare, an individual must be, number 1, a Kansas resident, and number 2, a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. For an eligible non-citizen to be considered eligible for any of the KanCare medical assistance programs, non-U.S. citizens must hold legal residency in the United States for 5 years or more, or hold a certain immigration status, and of course be able to submit certain documentation. Which immigrant statuses do not require 5 years legal residency? Those individuals with the status listed below would be considered Medicaid eligible non-citizens even without waiting the 5 years. Refugees admitted under 207 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, asylees granted asylum under 208 of the INA, aliens whose deportation has been withheld under Section 243. Cuban or Haitian entrants, as defined in Section 501 of the Refugee Education Assistance Act of 1980, non-citizens who are certified victims of severe forms of trafficking, and some family members who are admitted to the U.S. as refugees under Section 207 of the INA. This information is constantly changing, so I want to make sure you have access to the most updated and any additional information. So I would take a look at this. If you're not sure with the person you're working with, go to the KeySum manual on the KanCare webpage. It's under KanCare Policies webpage. The direct URL is https://www.kancare.ks.gov/policies-and-reports/KDHE -eligibility-policy/manuals. That's the KeySum manual. Once you get there, you can click on the family with children or the elderly and persons with disabilities. Then you'll look for the code 2140 in the KeySum manual. Then specifically 2142.1 for eligible non-citizens, and then also 2142.2 non-citizens who qualify after 5 years. So the 2142.1 is the ones that don't have to wait the 5 years. So there's certain immigration statuses, and of course they'll have to have the documentation proving they are that immigration status. And another thing I know that every Medicaid applicant needs, citizen or non-citizen, to be Medicaid eligible, you must have a Social Security number. So in the case of immigrants, a lot of times they come here and they'll immediately apply for a Social Security number, but it takes a while to get that. So be sure and get receipt that you've applied for the Social Security Administration and submit that with your KanCare application. But as soon as you get the Social Security cards and number assigned to you, it is then your responsibility, and you must submit that, update that information with the KanCare clearinghouse, and that would be the applicant's responsibility. What documentation proves Medicaid eligible immigration status? Remember, the KDHE eligibility team must have proof that the applicant has applied for Social Security, as all Medicaid recipients must have a Social Security number to receive Medicaid. And remember, in the beginning, it's okay to get a receipt that proves that you've applied for Social Security, but once the applicant has received the Social Security number, they are now required to update the KanCare with that information immediately. Additional documentation such as I-94, travel documents, employment, authorization card, green card, may also be required in these cases. You can see the Office of Refugee Resettlement, or ORR, state letter for specifics on what documentation is required. That URL is www.acf.hhs.gov/sites/ORR/state_letter_508_0.pdf. KanCare Ombudsman Office does recommend that you send all of your required documentation with the KanCare application to help avoid delays. That's always helpful in every case, no matter what. Sometimes you'll have to send some information later because it takes you longer to gather it, but as much as possible, send as much as possible with your original application. Also on page 4, the application asks for a place of birth, race, and ethnicity. Race and ethnicity answers are optional. Also in this section, page 4, the application asks if the person has delivered a baby in the last 3 months, and did this person have emergency care in the last 3 months to save life, organs, or bodily function. What about non-citizens that are not eligible for KanCare? SOBRA, which is the 6th Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, is a fee-for-service. That means the state pays for the provider directly. There is no managed care organization. It's a fee-for-service plan for persons who do not meet citizenship immigration requirements to be Medicaid eligible. Persons must still meet income and asset rules to qualify for SOBRA, and there's only 2 things SOBRA covers: life-threatening emergency care costs, which is SOBRA Emergency, or birth delivery services, which is SOBRA Labor and Delivery. What are the SOBRA income and asset requirements? It really depends on the path. SOBRA is not a standalone program, but one that is attached to other categories. For example, if a woman is applying for SOBRA birth and delivery, then the eligibility team would attach it to the KanCare Pregnant Women program, because that's the one that fits. And the income and asset resource limits would match that of the Pregnant Women program. So there'd be no resources and asset limit tests for the pregnancy program, so there wouldn't be one for SOBRA either. And then the income limits would be the same that you see on the KanCare Pregnant Women program, the same ones we saw on the fact sheet in a previous lesson. However, if the pregnant woman is over the income limit for the pregnant women program, then she still could qualify for the medically needy program. So then it would be attached to the medically needy program, and she may end up with a spend down. So a general explanation of SOBRA income and asset limits. For families with children, pregnant women, and children's programs, there are no asset or resource limits because there are no asset or resource limits on those KanCare programs. So they won't be for the person eligible for SOBRA. Then their income limit would be the same as the program they'd match with or be attached to. So if they are a parent or caregiver of a child under 19, then they'll have those same income limits. If they are a child under 19, they'll have the same income limits of the children's program they match with, or if they are pregnant, then they'll have the same income limits as the pregnancy program. If their income was over the limit for one of those programs just mentioned, then they may still qualify for SOBRA with a spend down, because SOBRA would then be attached to the medically needy program, which is an alternative program when people are over the limit. General explanation of SOBRA income and asset limits for people over 65 or those with disabilities determined by Social Security rules, or at least those who have a pending disability case with Social Security. There's a $2,000 asset resource limit for single individuals because these are the asset resource limits on those KanCare programs for people over 65 and those with disabilities. Then they may or may not have a spend down depending on their income. And SOBRA cannot be attached to any of the long-term care programs such as HCBS, one of the home and community-based service waivers, or PACE or nursing facility, nor to any non-Medicaid programs such as Medican or Medicare Savings Program, for example. How do I apply for SOBRA? If applying for SOBRA, labor and delivery, for example, you would apply after your baby has been born. It's not something you can apply for ahead of time. The individual has to apply for SOBRA coverage using the KanCare application, but again, only after the incident. You could write SOBRA on the application at the top in big letters, but the clearinghouse should be able to figure out that it's a SOBRA applicant without the SOBRA heads up. However, KanCare Ombudsman Office always recommends making it clear and easy, so we would recommend putting that at the top. Once KDHE's eligibility team starts the SOBRA process, they will mail the hospital a SOBRA form to fill out, and KDHE only gives the hospital the SOBRA form once they've determined the person is financially eligible. A question I've been asked before, we're going to share here. How long after the life-threatening emergency or the birth and delivery can someone apply for SOBRA? I realize they'll usually sign up at the hospital when this emergency or birth or delivery occurs, but if they didn't, and someone at a clinic, for example, helps them to sign up later, is it 3 months like many of the other programs? Yes, this program can backdate up to 3 months before the application date, just like a lot of other KanCare programs. If you'd like to continue with this line-by-line guide of the KanCare application for the elderly and persons with disabilities, please check out the next few liaison training videos. Again, there is also a printable line-by-line application guide available in this section. If you're a KanCare applicant or member and you're needing help to resolve a KanCare issue, we are here to assist you. Also, if you're a provider assisting someone or a family member or a neighbor and you're trying to help a KanCare applicant or member, we are here to help you also. Give us a call. Our toll-free number is 1-855-643-8180. Again, that's 1-855-643-8180, or email us at kancare.ombudsman@ks.gov.